This is why you survived, because you were chosen before time began, because your breath still carries divine purpose, because the universe and God have not given up on you, even when you gave up on yourself, because within your brokenness lives an unstoppable light, because everything you lost made space for the miracles you're about to receive, because every sleepless night was counted, every silent tear was witnessed by heaven, because you are not random, you are called, designed, and preserved for a reason that no evil force could cancel, because God hid you in pain to reveal you in power, because storms didn't destroy you, they trained you, because rejection redirected you to divine connections, because your survival is a sign that your story is sacred, because angels have been assigned to your name, because your prayers moved mountains you didn't see, because every delay was divine protection, because your wounds are the birthplace of your wisdom, because your failure didn't disqualify you, it prepared you, because you were not buried, you were planted because the darkness wasn't the end. It was the beginning of your rising, because the fire didn't consume you, it refined you, because the betrayal didn't break you. It birthed clarity, because those who left couldn't walk the path you're destined for, because your tears were seeds, and now harvest is on its way, because the universe conspired to keep you breathing for a reason you've yet to imagine, because heaven has not forgotten your name, because your spirit still fights even when your body is tired, because miracles don't look for perfect, they look for purpose, because you're being aligned with divine timing, because this season will answer the questions your pain couldn't, because you are being prepared for what you once prayed for, because the favor coming to you is beyond logic, because destiny delayed is never destiny denied, because you didn't die in the valley, you are rising on the mountain, because you're stepping into alignment with everything meant for you, because your voice matters, your existence matters, your dreams are sacred, because God is not finished with you yet, because what you survived is proof of what you'll conquer, because purpose kept you breathing when pain told you to give up, because divine doors are opening no man can shut, because you carry a mission that this world desperately needs, because breakthrough is coming suddenly and loudly, because you are divinely backed and spiritually armored, because your scars are sacred stories that will heal others, because the universe is about to reward your silent battles, because grace followed you into your lowest places and is now lifting you higher, because time didn't run out on you. It's been waiting for your awakening, because you are the proof that survival is sacred, and now it's your turn to rise, to shine, to walk boldly in the calling placed upon your life, because this is the season where everything changes, because heaven has seen your struggle and is releasing strength, because your yes to keep going is shaking dimensions, because what you carry is greater than what tried to crush you, because your light is louder than your past, because God's hand is still on you, because everything is aligning, and now is your time to live, to rise, to lead, to become all you were created to be, because this is why you survived, my beloved. There are moments you carry in silence that no one else sees, moments that try to rip you apart from the inside, slowly, like a quiet unraveling. Not all pain is loud. Some of it settles into the background, like a permanent echo, a whisper that tells you something broke and maybe it can't be fixed. But I was there, I didn't flinch, I didn't pull away. And today, I'm not coming to ignore those places. I'm coming to redeem them, because what tried to break you isn't the end of your story. It's the soil. I'm planting something in. Let me be clear. I did not cause the harm. I didn't orchestrate the betrayal. I didn't will the wound. But I saw it coming. And even in the thick of it, I never left your side. You may have looked around and wondered why I didn't intervene the way you hoped. You may have cried out for me and felt no answer. You may have questioned if I turned my face away, but I need you to know this. I wasn't distant. I was digging deeper beneath the surface, beneath the breaking. I was preparing the ground for a strength that couldn't be shaken. Not performance, not pretense, but real, sacred, steady strength. You survived things that had the power to steal your breath. And even when the world moved on, even when people forgot what you endured, I still remember the moment your heart split and you pretended to be okay. I remember the night you couldn't sleep because your mind kept replaying what you couldn't change. I remember the ache in your chest when no one asked how you were really doing. You showed up anyway. You smiled anyway. You served anyway, but I saw behind the mask. I held the version of you that trembled when the doors were shut, and I kept you alive, not just physically, but spiritually. When you were too numb to pray, too angry to worship, too tired to try again, I stood guard over your soul because I knew something you didn't know yet. I would use what tried to break you. You don't have to understand how I do it. You just have to know that I will. I don't discard broken things. I don't avoid mess. I enter it. I step into the pain with you. Not to remind you of it, but to repurpose it. There's no crack too wide for my light. No fracture too deep for my restoration. You think your pain disqualifies you. It qualifies you not for performance, but for presence, for compassion, for wisdom, for healing, for legacy. Your tears have watered a ground that is about to grow, something holy. I don't waste what you walked through. I turn every shattered piece into a mosaic of grace. You've been asking, even if not aloud, what was the point of all of this? And while I won't minimize the cost, while I won't pretend it didn't hurt, I will show you something higher. I will show you that what the enemy meant to use as a grave, I will use as a garden. That's who I am. That's what I do. And this is not the end. This is the beginning. Not a repeat, not a return to what was, but a rebuilding on stronger ground. This new foundation isn't made of applause or certainty. It's made of endurance, trust, resilience, and the unshakable truth that you are still here, still breathing, still chosen. You may not feel strong. That's okay. Your strength isn't in how loud you shout. Your faith, it's in how you whispered, help, when no one else heard. Your strength is in the decision to keep waking up, to keep putting one foot in front of the other, even when it felt pointless, even when no one applauded, even when it didn't feel spiritual. I saw every moment I measured, every sigh, I caught every tear, and I never once stopped counting you worthy. Let me remind you of something eternal. I do not love you because you endured. I loved you through the endurance. I loved you before it. I love you after it. Nothing you went through made you more precious to me. You were always priceless, but now there's a weight in your spirit that wasn't there before. A depth that only pain can teach, a softness that only suffering can shape. And this sacred soil of your healing, this is what I will use to grow fruit that lasts, not for performance, not for popularity, but for purpose. So let me say it again, in the tone, your soul can finally believe. I will use what tried to break you. Not because I need to prove anything, but because you were never meant to be wasted. You were never meant to be discarded. I have always had a plan for you, and not 1 ounce of your pain will go unused in the story I'm still telling through you. There is more. There is healing. There is beauty ahead. And no matter what tried to bury you, I've already declared you will rise, do. You've asked questions you didn't dare say out loud. You've wondered in the quiet corners of your thoughts if this was allowed to happen. Does that mean I'm not as called as I once believed? Does that mean I missed something? Maybe I failed to hear you. Maybe I wasn't strong enough to hold what you gave me. But child, that's the voice of grief speaking, not the voice of truth. The trauma made you question your clarity. The pain clouded your memory. But hear me, your calling hasn't been cancelled. It's being clarified, refined, not removed. I never needed you to walk through life untouched by hardship. I needed you to stay with me when it got hard. And you did, even when you pulled away emotionally. Even when you got tired of praying. The same unanswered prayers. Even when your faith felt more like survival than belief. You stayed in the room. You stayed in the process. And that was enough for me to keep building. Now I'm peeling back the lies you picked up along the way. Lies that settled in like unwanted guests during the nights you cried yourself to sleep. Lies that said, You're too fragile now. You're too marked, too weary, too damaged. But those are distortions born from sorrow, not declarations from heaven. You are not fragile. You are tempered, and the fire didn't destroy you. It strengthened your metal. Yes, there are cracks in you. Now, but cracks don't cancel value. They make room for glory. You've seen how pain isolates it, made you pull back from people, from your own voice, from your future. It convinced you that retreat was safer, that maybe invisibility would hurt less than trying again. So you hid, not because you're weak, but because somewhere inside you stopped believing. There was still space for you. You thought maybe your chapter had ended early, maybe you already peaked, maybe what's ahead could never be as bright as what you lost. But let me say this, gently and firmly, I'm not done writing. What you saw as the final page was only a pause, and the part of your story that comes next won't be about bouncing back to who you were. It will be about rising forward into who you're. Becoming you are not the same person who entered the storm. And that's the point, what I'm calling you into. Now requires a different depth, one you only found when everything else fell away. What tried to break? You removed the surface layers, and now we're down to the foundation. And that's where I'm building. I know you lost things. You never thought you'd lose relationships, opportunities, trust, time, pieces of yourself. You're still trying to gather. But I also know what you didn't lose. You didn't lose your capacity to feel. You didn't lose your ability to love. You didn't lose your desire to be whole again. You didn't lose me. And those remaining embers, however small, are enough. Let me blow on them. Let me turn the smoke into fire again. Not for performance, not for display, but for warmth, for light, for clarity. You may feel like you've been disqualified, but I see something else. I see a heart that has been purified. I see someone who can no longer be easily fooled. Someone who knows the cost of compassion. Someone who can now lead without needing applause. Someone who's learned to be faithful in private before ever being seen in public. And I say, again, that is enough. You don't have to go back to what was. You don't have to become the version of you that existed before the breaking. I'm not rebuilding that version. I'm resurrecting someone new. And yes, resurrection always requires something to die. First, expectations, illusions, comfort, control, maybe even certain relationships. But death is not the end in my kingdom. It's the soil of rebirth, and what comes out of this season won't look like the version of success you used to imagine. It will look truer. It will look like peace that can't be shaken, like hope that holds even on silent nights, like a gentleness that carries weight, like love that doesn't fracture under pressure. You will be a living testimony, not in theory, not in doctrine, but in breath and in blood. So stop waiting to feel ready. I'm not asking for your confidence. I'm asking for your surrender. I don't need you to be certain about the future. I need you to say yes again, one more time. Even if your yes is trembling, even if it's small, I can build on that. I always have. I built creation with words. I can rebuild your life with one whispered yes. You're not forgotten. You're not overlooked. You're not passed by. You're protected. I've hidden you on purpose, not to exile you, but to prepare you, because when I reintroduce you, you won't be performing. You'll be overflowing. What once drained, you will now become what fuels you. What once silenced you will now become the place of your greatest clarity. And what once broke, you will now be the place where others come to be healed. There's something I want you to see now. Something you've been too close to notice. The battle you faced wasn't just about what happened to you, it was about what I placed inside you long before the pain ever arrived. The enemy wasn't just trying to hurt you, he was trying to shut you down. He saw the authority you carry. He saw the ripple effect of your voice, your presence, your love. He saw what you would become if you healed, and that terrified him. So he tried to cut you off at the root. Not with one massive blow, but with slow, strategic wounds meant to wear you down over time. He planted doubts in the cracks of your disappointment. He used familiar voices to shake your confidence. He whispered through loss, through betrayal, through delay. See, you're not as called as you thought. You're not as protected as you hoped. You're not as loved as you believed. But those were not my words. And now, I'm exposing the lies that were wrapped in false logic. The half-truths that sounded just close enough to reason that you didn't see the trap. I'm pulling them out one by one, not to shame you, but to set you free. You've carried a hidden heaviness for so long that you forgot it wasn't supposed to be there. You adjusted your posture to accommodate pain. You lowered your voice to avoid rejection. You trimmed your dreams to keep others comfortable. And I grieved with you, not because you were weak, but because I never created you to shrink. You weren't designed to contort yourself for survival. You were designed to abide, to expand, to flourish. But when pain taught you to expect rejection, you began living in constant anticipation of loss. And that anticipation became a lens one that clouded even the good moments with fear. But I'm clearing that lens now. I'm reminding you that not everyone will walk away. That not every open door will close that. Not every season will end in disappointment. You're allowed to hope again. And more than that, you're allowed to walk forward with boldness again. Not the boldness that performs, the boldness that belongs, the kind that says, even if I'm still healing, I have something to carry, something sacred, something weighty, something that no wound could erase. Because here is what the enemy didn't count on. You're still here. And not only are you still here, you're beginning to see again, to feel again, to dream again. That flicker in your spirit, that warmth that rises when you imagine a future that doesn't hurt. That's me. That's not fantasy. It's foretelling. That's me. Resurrecting what grief tried to bury. That's me restoring the edges of your vision. You don't have to brace for the worst anymore. I'm building something in you that won't collapse under pressure. I'm teaching you to stand on a healed foundation, not a masked one. You see, I never needed you to bounce back quickly. I needed you to go deep. I needed you to stay long enough in the quiet so that when I whispered again, you'd recognize my voice without the noise of old expectations. The healing I'm doing isn't surface level. It's generational. It's foundational. It's meant to outlast the trends and storms. That's why it's taking time. That's why it feels different, because I'm not just giving you recovery. I'm giving you roots. And those roots, they are starting to anchor you, not in fear, not in shame, in truth, in identity in me. You are no longer defined by what broke you. You are no longer limited by what hurt you. Your story is not the story of someone who barely survived. It's the story of someone who was transformed deeply, deliberately, divinely. There's a weight on your life now, a holy weight, and it's not too much. It's just right because it was custom formed through fire and grace. Don't underestimate what I'm preparing in the hidden place. Just because it's quiet doesn't mean it's empty. Just because the applause stopped doesn't mean the anointing. Did this season has been sacred, even if it's felt strange. You thought you were being passed over, but I was positioning you. You thought you were being benched, but I was restoring your strength. And now, what was once a hiding place is about to become a launching ground. But you won't launch in panic. You won't run in desperation. You will walk in rhythm with me, with peace, with knowing. So take a breath, and not just to calm yourself, but to receive again, to allow yourself to be filled. You've spent so much energy trying to hold everything together. But now I want you to let me hold you. I'm not waiting for you to prove you're whole. Before I use you, I'm using you as I heal you. I'm speaking through the cracks, shining through the scars. I'm anointing the very places the enemy tried to shame. And I'm doing it not in secret anymore, but in clarity, in light and power. The ones who saw your fall will now witness your rise, not in pride, but in presence, not in spectacle, but in steady glory. And when they ask, how did you make it through? You'll smile not with arrogance, but with reverence, and say, because he stayed, and I did, and I still am, and I will use what tried to break you. I want you to pause for a moment, not just physically, but deep within your soul, and feel what is beginning to settle inside you. This is not simply relief that the storm has passed. It's not just gratitude that you made it through. What you're sensing is something far more profound, a shift in identity, because what once tried to define you by your breaking will now reveal you through your becoming. You are not the same as before, and that is not a loss, it's a victory. There is wisdom now, where only reaction used to live. There is discernment now, where there used to be overexposure. There is sacred stillness now, in places that were once filled with striving. These are not small things, these are miracles, because transformation is not just measured in what others can see. It is revealed in the quiet places where your inner life no longer agrees with lies. And you, beloved, have stopped agreeing with the lie that says, your pain was proof of my absence. Let's name it together. How easy it was to equate the absence of intervention with the absence of love. When the breaking came and I didn't stop it, you wondered, was he still watching? Did he care? You tried to be strong. You told yourself all the right spiritual things, but deep beneath the surface, you began to protect yourself, even from me, not because you hated me, but because you feared I might let it happen again. But here is my truth. I was never the one who broke you. I was the one who caught you as you fell. I was the one who stood between you and despair. I was the one who buried strength inside your weakness, so you could rise when rising seemed impossible. Yes, I could have stopped it all, but if I had, you wouldn't have discovered what cannot be taken from you, my presence within you, because what I build in you is never at the mercy of what people break around you. The work I do in the deep places is not undone by betrayal, abandonment, or even loss. You've looked around and asked, why did they walk away? Why didn't they fight for me? Why did I have to lose so much just to find peace? And though I will never minimize your grief, I want to reveal something holy through it. The weight they dropped, I never asked you to carry the room they exited, was not the place I intended to keep you. The space that was emptied is now the space I'm filling. And child, I'm filling it not with performance, but with presence, not with illusions of control, but with truth that holds even when everything else lets go. What once broke, you tried to make you believe you were fragile. But the truth is, fragility didn't bring you here. Endurance did. The truth is pain didn't erase your value. It revealed your substance. Anyone can shine in peace, but you endured the darkness. You stayed when it would have been easier to run. You loved when it hurt. You kept showing up, even when your name was forgotten in rooms you once helped build. So let's be honest, part of what broke your heart wasn't just the pain itself. It was the silence that followed it, the lack of acknowledgement, the way your sacrifice went unnoticed, the way your kindness was mistaken for weakness, and worst of all, the internal voice that said, maybe they were right, maybe I really don't matter as much as I thought. But I'm silencing that voice now, not by overpowering it, but by outlasting it. I will drown it in waves of truth so steady that no accusation can stand. I'm speaking louder, not in volume, but in resonance. I will remind you again and again until the lie no longer fits in your spirit. You are not forgotten. You are not replaceable. You are not left behind. You are seen. You are carried. You are commissioned. I'm going to use what tried to break you, not only to restore your soul, but to anoint your steps. The very places you were wounded will become the places you carry. Healing. You will walk through rooms with a different weight. Now, not a burden, but a presence. Not pressure, but power. The kind of power that comes from someone who no longer performs. To be accepted, the kind of authority that only emerges from brokenness, that has been redeemed, not erased. You will speak gently, and it will pierce through noise. You will listen deeply, and people will feel seen again. You will move slowly and still carry more impact than others who run ahead, because I'm not sending you forward as someone who is chasing relevance. I'm sending you as someone who knows what cannot be shaken. This is how I build my kingdom, through those who thought they were too wounded to be used, through those who stopped trying to impress and started learning to abide, through those who are no longer hungry for recognition but desperate for truth. You're one of those, and I'm placing something on your life that will not look like the platform you once imagined, but it will carry eternal weight. You thought the breaking was the end, but it was a beginning. Not the kind that starts with noise and lights, but the kind that starts with a whisper in your spirit and grows quietly into strength that cannot be stolen. You're not the aftermath of pain. You're the beginning of legacy. And I will use what tried to break you. Not in spite of it, but because of it. I want you to take a deep breath and look at your own story. Not through the lens of shame or regret, but through the lens of grace that's right. Grace, not luck, not coincidence, not resilience alone, but grace that followed you into every shadowed place. Grace that preserved what the world overlooked. Grace that kept the embers alive when even you were convinced it was over. Do you see it now? You weren't just surviving, you were being sustained, even when it felt like everything meaningful slipped through your fingers, even when the years felt like they passed with nothing to show, even when your strength was worn thin and your dreams collapsed.